overslept. But we're live and we're waiting on Bob. It looks like he might have overslept this morning. He's on the mountain time, so it's only 6:30 his time. So we're lucky he gets up every morning for these things. But
I mean, Bob used to get up at 4:30. There he is.
There he is. So yeah, we're live here, and just to dive right into it. So yeah, yesterday the market opened up and was roaring higher. At some point, the Nasdaq even turned green, and it looked like it was destined for all-time highs, to the point where there was such a narrative that there was no chance the market doesn't hit all-time highs. And then sure enough, at the end of the day, there was that massive reversal. I think we talked about it a little bit, but when you really think about what happened yesterday, it wasn't even necessarily, in my opinion, a bearish reversal. You had the huge mega cap stocks that got us here selling off as part of the rotation, and it became such a weight on the market that it just brought down the entire market. But if you look at the names that were strong yesterday, they closed strong. They didn't close at their day highs, but some of the cynical names that we were talking about in the morning, whether it was Ford or Wynn or Dave & Buster's or Planet Fitness, these names did not turn red at the end of the day, not even close actually. And I think yesterday looked really scary when in the last hour the volatility index started to turn positive and then the market started to drop like a rock. They obviously came on CNBC in the last hour. They canceled football. Biden picked his VP. There was all these things happening and the market was trying to digest it. But I think that there was a lot of people that probably panic sold at the end of the day there, thinking it was going to be the beginning of a massive reversal, who maybe bought at the levels of yesterday. And you wake up and a lot of these stocks are right back to business of where they were yesterday. So I'm kind of the camp of just sort of, I don't want to say I'm shaking off yesterday. I think anytime things seem too easy in the market, they're not. And anytime it's obvious that something's going to happen, it doesn't. And saying that, I'd say the path of least resistance in this market is higher. And, I think the market will ultimately shake off yesterday and continue to do what it's trying to do, which is get to these new levels. And personally, once again looking at Play, which is Dave & Buster's. They had a massive day yesterday. I was day trading them. I'm going to do the same today, and I'm starting to pick out my levels. I'll do it on this show. I'm going to probably look at Wynn because, again, another company that just yesterday had massive volume. And if you just look at their chart, I think it's a company with a lot of catch up right now. And I think that's what's going on is people are looking for companies that look, at the end of the day, despite what the media is saying, if you really look into what's going on, the virus peaked a pretty long time ago. And unless there's some sort of reignition with the virus and it starts to spike again bad, I think the market's trying to digest what it looks like in a world without a virus. And what it looks like in that world is there were a lot of stocks that were priced to almost extinction that are now rapidly trying to play catch up and get priced to what they would be like in a normal world again. And if you wait for that to actually happen, you missed it. So I think that's what's happening right now. And yesterday I bought Ford. And I kept it overnight. It looks like it's going to open higher today. I'm with you, Dad. I'd love to see that go from 9 to 10. And again, I know I just said, but Play, Play, which is Dave & Buster's, just super beaten down right now and just seems like a name that's starting to get a lot of traction. So those are kind of the names I'm looking at today. And like I just said, Wynn. And yeah, Dad, what were your thoughts yesterday? And what are you looking at today?
Yeah, well, I think the market has had, 6-7 days up in a row, and they were looking for an excuse to have some type of sell-off. And I think the strength of the sell-off in the big names started to spill over into the new names. And even though they didn't, for the most part, trade lower, they came in quite a bit from their highs. So it was just a lot to digest with some of the big names going down. And there were a couple of things that came out. I thought, well, obviously the picking the vice president drives home how close the election is. And that kind of reminded people that the election's right around the corner, which they seem to forget every other day. And, closing down college football for the most part, at least part of it, is a jolt to the economy. Forget the football itself, everything that goes around that just reminds people, we're not out of the woods by any means. And then after the market closed, Tesla announces a 5-for-1 split. To me, that's the last hurrah to keep their stock up. And it gives people a better chance to buy it because it'll be cheaper, but it's still going to be a $250, $300 stock. So I'm not quite sure if that's the result they're looking for, or they're just trying to get their stock up short term. Plug, which we talk about all the time, had a big stock offering, which is always out there for these stocks that run to the moon, that these companies have that option to raise more money at ridiculous levels. So they brought out, I think the stock was priced at 10.25, the secondary on Plug. And that's exactly where the stock is trading right now. So we'll have to see what happens there, but that's a dilution. And other stocks that have moved like that, if I'm in those companies making the decisions, what an easy way to raise money. Just do a secondary at levels that you couldn't dream about 6 months ago. Some of these medical companies, there's a long laundry list you could do. As far as stocks go, I like Ford, like you said. I think Mosaic shockingly did a reversal yesterday, but it's reversing right back up today. So I still like Mosaic. And, that whole group, I think, is fairly solid. And DKNG earnings come out, I believe, tomorrow.
Friday, I think.
Friday. So that's still cautionary, but you could see how it reacted when the news about college sports came out. It immediately, fell like $1, but it rallied back a little bit. But we'll have to see what they say in their earnings. How's it going?
Let's also remember that on Monday, DraftKings sold off 8 to 10% on the same exact announcement. So
right.
Part of me thinks
to a certain degree. And Mike, I'm told we should open this for you. There's a card from Lori and Rick and Zach.
Oh, yeah.
Hold on a minute.
Mike, what about you? Did you make any plays yesterday, or are you looking at anything today?
Yeah, I bought Ford too yesterday. I scooped up 2,000 shares at the open. Sometimes I have a bad hair day, and then I think about Donald Trump, and I'm all thumbs up. Nice. Lori,
happy birthday, Michael. We wish we were there to celebrate. We love and miss you so much. Happy birthday.
Love you guys too. Thank you. Hopefully we'll see you in Mexico again soon.
That's it. Okay.
Zach Kale from downtown.
Yeah. Anyway, onward.
Yeah, I bought some Ford yesterday. That was, I believe, the only move I made yesterday. I'm in a lot right now. I'm definitely very neck deep in the market. I'm in margin a good amount. I almost added more on Zillow, but I already own plenty, so I figured might as well just hold out there. I think that's dipped. I know it looks like it's up nice today. We were in yesterday. That stock has a habit of, rallying after earnings and then just shitting the bed short term for no reason. So there seemed to be a good buying opportunity there yesterday for anyone that wanted in. I think I'm going to get rid of my Uber today. I was listening to Kramer yesterday. I think he's dead on. This whole classification thing, that was a bad pick going into earnings last week. Luckily, didn't buy too much of it, but they are in they have problems. If you remember, their former CEO, Kalanick, made it clear before he left that they needed self-driving to come out by the end of this year, and now you know why. This classification issue with employees can literally cripple Uber. And it'll be interesting to see if ride service is even we're seeing in our industry, their only niche that's doing well is Uber Eats. with food delivery. That's their moneymaker. The ride hailing, if this employee thing, the appeal doesn't work out, they are in hot water, and I don't really see what they're going to do there.
I don't know. I kind of disagree. I look at it like when you really beneath the surface think about what Uber is, a digital version of what the taxi cab was a long time ago. And whether or not those are independent contractors or employees, that isn't going anywhere. If anything, Uber, in my opinion, those rides could cost more than double what they cost, and they're hardly going to miss out.
I disagree, man. I don't think people ride in Ubers. I don't think so at all. Where they made their money was the masses, the economies of scale. People will not ride in Ubers at double the price at all. They'll rent a car. They'll do things. There's cheaper options. I don't think the margins are there for Uber. There's no.
I don't think ride sharing is going anywhere.
It's self-driving is coming. That's what I'm getting at. Self-driving, with how much money is behind these big companies, guaranteed this pandemic's expedited that whole thing. There's too much money on the line for it not to. So you're going to see this being the tip of the iceberg of these contractors, employees. They're thinking they're too valuable. Uber behind closed doors, Amazon behind closed doors, Google, all these companies, they are piling so much weight into self-driving coming soon. I can guarantee it. And we will be hearing about this way more than we think in the months to come. That it is coming, or else a lot of companies are going under.
So you're saying two here. Uber's screwed. On the other, you're saying self-driving.
I'm saying they're screwed unless they have self-driving come out soon, is what I'm getting at as a company. I think our CTO said for a while they were going bankrupt. He could be onto something if they aren't able to figure that out. But I think the way they have so much money in the world behind some of these behemoths, that's how it's set up. And we need self-driving to come out. It should have come out a while ago. If you read what Elon Musk has broken down on self-driving, the level of safety that was needed compared to human error, it's already surpassed that over a year ago. So we're at the point where this has been solved, and we're going to see this come to fruition based on these rulings, I think.
Dad, I'll throw it over to you in 1 second. My last comment on the Uber thing is I think this environment today might not be the best moment for Uber at this exact time, but long term, I think people will look back and be like, man, I could have scooped Uber at 31 when they're trading in the mid 50s. And to me, they're too big and too funded of a company to not figure this out. That's why
self-driving. That's how they need that to make money. Like when you really break down their economics, it doesn't work otherwise. It really doesn't.
Well, it's also, don't forget, it's going to be on the ballot in November on whether this independent contractor thing can continue or not. So it's up to the people of California to finally make that decision.
And I think a lot of the independent contractors who drive for these companies actually prefer to be independent contractors.
Yeah, over 2/3 of them.
Yeah, so I don't even know if this lawing is going to happen. And I think a lot of it was already baked into the price. That's what I was hearing yesterday, is most people already assumed this would happen. And that's why Uber didn't really sell off once this news was announced. It sold off on the earning. You know, today it looks
I'm just tired of even talking about Uber and Lyft.
Yeah. Well, they've been a huge disappointment since they went public when you think about it. It's always hearing about what's coming with Uber, and they keep missing. Right. And you can make any excuse you want, the pandemic, the bad internal issues. They've had one thing after another. And Dan, you could be right. It could be a great time to scoop it. I've been thinking that for the last year with this stock since they went public, where it's like, oh, there's this great buying opportunity. And then it's like, well, wait, this company has a lot of money behind them, but they're also in the red like crazy.
Yeah. The other thing is just to wrap up Uber and Lyft. Everyone and their brother is researching it, watching it. There's a very small advantage that anybody could have trying to trade this thing, if any.
So yeah, let's shift gears here. Something I noticed yesterday, and it started on Monday. There was unusual option activity in Micron. And then yesterday, when the chip sector at the beginning of the day was really selling off hard, at least at first, Micron was in the green. And I don't know if that was a telling sign as to something going on, or just hedge funds looking at Micron as the buy and AMD as the short, just on the run pad and where Micron was. So, but then it obviously turned red, so maybe that's just a non-issue. But there was a moment where I was kind of looking at Micron. I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird. And the same thing with Twitter. So yesterday, Twitter, they kind of reinforced the fact that they are going to do the subscription model at some point. And I saw Seeking Alpha put out a piece about it where they were talking about what it's going to look like. And then same thing, when the rest of tech was selling off, Twitter wasn't. It was pretty strong. And I'm in Twitter. I think if there's any feeling that the subscription model is going to actually come, I think that stock's going to really start to trend up. And I'm keeping an eye on Micron just because it looks like it's showing a little bit of strength when its peers are showing weakness. And to me, that's always an interesting sign.
Yeah, I didn't realize that more than halfway through the day yesterday, Twitter ran up to 39. I didn't see that.
It was right after they
very heavy volume.
It was right after the CFO came out and kind of was like, hey, this subscription model, we are going to do it. We're figuring it out. And, I think, Mike, what are you grinning at over there?
What's that?
What are you grinning at over there?
I'm not grinning.
Yeah, it's like
that's
you keep
grit.
looking and grinning.
That's not grin, that's grit.
Yeah, nothing to grin about right now. Need to be making way more money first. Then you'll see me smiling.
So yeah,
but Twitter, I think when you think about the news also where I love that, Dan, is they're not this TikTok deal. There was rumor last week Twitter might merge with them. That's not happening. And the fact that that's not happening and you're seeing strength after that, it shows this whole subscription model clearly is starting to pick up steam. And it's not just a rumor, or else I don't think you'd see that type of rise in the beginning.
Yeah, there's got to be a revolt against these subscription models at some point. I mean, people are going to run out of money with these monthly subscriptions for 800 different things. Eventually they're going to get their bill and they're going to say, holy shit, I'm spending $5,000 a month on 800 subscriptions. I don't know.
Well, that's the beauty of subscription models for businesses. No one has any idea they're even paying them. They get on something and they get these bills. They dispute them. They get refunded. But
I think we should start a company to let people know what subscription.
They already started that. That came out a few years ago.
But I think when you look at the way Twitter's going to do it, I don't think it's going to be like every user on Twitter is paying a subscription. I think it's going to be the people who benefit from Twitter, who have the blue checks, who have huge followings, like the Dave Portnoys of the world, and there's millions of them. They're going to be the ones that are paying Twitter, as they should be. Like, Twitter's got to make their money somehow. And if you're using the platform and you're massive on it, I mean, they deserve to get a little bit of profit off of that. So
I almost think you're going to see Twitter almost like you're seeing Netflix allow people to submit content to possibly be published. I think they're going to entice the masses to almost like HARO.com, help a reporter out, where you have people submitting news. I think you're going to see that being a thing where people can make money by verifying events, whether it's through the Citizen app where you guys can see now you take live video footage for people to see what's going on in the world. That's popped off like crazy. I've mentioned that on the show before. That could be an interesting roll up for them. But I think, Dan, you're dead on with the verified accounts being enticed to push that more. But I think they're going to open up the floodgates for way more people to make sense of getting on Twitter and all of a sudden being a news anchor.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. To shift gears a little bit here, so we're already talking about tech. I mean, Dad, what do you think? I mean, I know tech looks like it's going to rebound a little today, and obviously there's been this rotation going on. How long do you think it lasts? Like, is there a point where you're like, okay, now is a great time to jump on some of these stocks? I mean, Netflix right now is at 470. No,
I think you have to look at individual charts. I think these stocks can still get hit pretty good. JP Morgan in the pre-market just made a higher high than where it was yesterday.
Annoyed I didn't jump on that.
Banks are really interesting because, they got to start. They have to discount regulation. I think the fact that Elizabeth Warren wasn't chosen, even though it wasn't a favorite, probably helps the banks to a small extent. And the yield curve spread out a little bit yesterday, and that's good for their earnings going forward. I don't know if that'll continue, but yields actually were the highest they've been in a month, which isn't saying much. They're still extremely low, but that helps the banks. So I think that group continues to gather strength.
Which, Dad, you've said for a while that's a healthy sign for the market. With
Yeah,
banks.
well, I think that just gives the people comfort that things are getting better. So we'll see if that continues. But as far as each individual tech name, I think you have to look at them separately. I think you still would sell into strength today if you own those stocks and look for entry points lower.
Yeah, it seems like that, in order for this rally to really be legit.
But having said that, I had a horrible trading day yesterday. I sold Boeing, bought it back higher, and then sat with it, and it closed lower. It's higher now, but I just couldn't get into the groove, which happens some days. And we'll see how it goes today.
Interesting. Yeah, I actually had one of my better days, just mainly because of Dave & Buster's. I don't know where we'll go today, but I think the names that went yesterday are just going to keep going. Like, I think it's one of those things where the market for the last 5-6 months, it's really been one of those things where it's like, look at what's trending, and more times than not, it's going to trend for more than just a couple days. And it's almost like trying to not make things too difficult when you're looking at the market, and it's giving you what it's giving you, and it's right in front of you.
It's been acting great. Dunkin' Donuts, who I feel like has just flown under the radar. You guys know I've been a big holder of theirs for a while. I feel like everyone's always talking about Starbucks, and Dunkin' is just, I think, doing such a phenomenal job the way they've been marketing and throughout this whole pandemic operating with their promos and their new breakfast sandwiches, and just their whole game plan has been dominant. And I'm glad it's been rewarding me holding the stock, because I think this chart's looking great. I think they have way more room to run, and it's a great holding. DNKN, they are, as stable as an anchor as you can get in this world when you think about it. You see those Dunkin' coffees and donuts everywhere, literally.
Dunkin' is actually, I like the chart, Mike. I think it looks like it could, if it breaks through 72, the old high is what, 72.31-ish?
Yeah.
It's got some room, and
it looks ready to. It's been well.
The next level to break through.
Yeah, so that's something I think people should consider. That everyone always brings up Starbucks in that space, and it always shocks me that Dunkin' is never brought up on any of it. No one never talks about them.
It's a very similar chart to Starbucks.
Yeah, I know, but it's almost like the dark horse. And I don't even like Starbucks coffee. I like Dunkin' Donuts coffee with the blueberry flavor. It's great.
It definitely seems to be like part of the sector right now that's having its time in the sun too. Like, there's no doubt that these value plays or restaurant stocks or any of these
And another
stocks.
one to bring up, guys, that we've talked about, ALGN, Invisalign. Corey's brother works there, and I've always, out of just loving that kid, I've owned the stock, and it's treated me great. I have a couple other buddies that are big holders of this, and they are, where that space is, and there's been a lot of pent-up demand. It's been acting well. It's a volatile stock, but it's also a healthy chart, and they're a behemoth.
Yeah, just switching into a different area now. If you look at Campers World, which we talked about weeks ago, and Winnebago, these stocks have hit their highs and may not see them again because summer's coming to a close, and I just don't know who's going to be left out there to buy a camper or camping equipment. And with the same thing with Winnebago.
Are good shorts right now, you think?
Well, look at Campers World. What is it?
Let me just say one thing about Campers World while you're pulling it up is So what's his name? Marcus Lemonin or whatever.
Lemonis, yeah.
Yeah, he's the guy behind them. And 2 days ago, he loaded up on their stock. Obviously, they sold off on earnings. Not only when they sold off on earnings, he tweeted something along. It was like a Mike Rolland type tweet that he was basically like, nothing boils my blood more than like seeing people doubt me. And then he put a screenshot of the stock down like 18% after hour. And he's been buying a lot of stock this week of his own company, which is always a vote of confidence. I don't know if you want to bet against that guy.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's what's held it up the stock a little bit.
Or is he up to something internally that no one knows about yet? Is there something brewing there?
I mean,
I think he's just got a lot of confidence in himself.
Which is you always love seeing that in leaders in any space. Anytime I'm seeing that, I'm like, oh, I'm behind this. If it's the right exec. I don't know what's his history like, Dan, of buying his stock and how it acts afterwards.
That's the other thing. He's bought his stock a lot. It's not like all of a sudden he's buying his stock for the first time. He periodically buys his stock. And since he started buying the stock's obviously gone on an insane run, up over 400%. I think it's not necessarily a sign that something's going on as much as it's a sign of a CEO who's got a lot of confidence in his own abilities.
I mean, if I look at this chart, I mean, I'd be surprised if this stock doesn't come down to 25, 26. You know, it just is in a downward trend hard since the earnings. And if you punch in Winnebago.
What's the chart on? What's the symbol there?
WGO. This stock's been down for almost a month.
Because like you were saying, Dad, it's tough to get behind getting in something like this right now. We're heading at the end of the summer. It's what type of person is getting in the mode of getting one of these now? Maybe someone that's leaving a city and just taking their family on a nice road trip type of living experience for a few months and an adventure.
I just think that it got way ahead of itself. And
one thing to keep in mind, though, with that, I don't know if this might be a bit outlandish, but if you're seeing schools, a lot of kids not being let back into school by their parents, just not being down with it, and you'll have some adventurous parents being like, oh, we're going to homeschool these kids and take a road trip. Like, Dad, I feel like you would have made a play like that back in the day.
Yeah, I wish I did.
Well, that's what I'm getting at, though. That could be an interesting thing to think about if you have a bunch of homeschooled kids on the road. I don't know what we're looking at with that, but that's a bit far-fetched.
Yeah, just interesting that these names, which were on a tear, have completely gone from on a tear to being under distribution.
Well, keep in mind, it was during the heart of the pandemic, right? When everyone was scared this thing wasn't ending. We're in a headline era. And now, like Dan said earlier on this show, the virus peaked a while ago. So naturally, airlines have rallied. People are looking to figure out when we're getting back to normal. So back to normal doesn't work in the stock's advantage.
Speaking of a stock that's been on a tear, I mean, Penn National, it wouldn't shock me if they really, really go to all new highs. I know they already are, but, this stock seems to just have all the momentum in the world right now. I still can't help but think to myself that beneath the surface, Barstool Sports alone is probably worth more than the entire market cap of Penn Nat.
I agree.
But when we look at the potential of that company, I love this stock. I think it's going to shoot up a big way. I could see it just getting back above 50 and then just like going almost in a straight line to 85. It wouldn't shock me at all.
I've scaled back to 750 shares. I still own a lot, but I've made really good money on this stock. And as it's gone up, I've kind of slowly gotten rid of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now the beauty of the stock is before it was almost like a lone wolf where the casino stocks weren't necessarily acting well and Penn was acting really well. And now you have the casino stocks that are being favored. So not only has Penn been such a beast on its own, but now you have the whole sector that's being favored. So to me, that just helps Penn even more. And, I know I said like Win a lot. I do. I love Win. I like Win and Penn a lot more than DraftKings right now in this exact environment, even though I also own DraftKings. But, I really think this stock is going to continue to just go way higher. And I think the same thing about Win, too. Dad, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have to look at the internals again of Penn. I mean, we're all excited by it. It's had a huge move. And what I find interesting, there's a lot of analysts that keep downgrading this thing and it goes up in their face. So at some point, they've got to, be making money. And I think they're still not in that camp. It's going to take a while for things to kick in. And hopefully they don't need to do a stock offering or something like that to put a halt to the rise here. But I'm always thinking that in the back of my mind. This is a perfect opportunity for them to do a stock offering.
Which would not, anytime a company does that, it seems like it just sends the stock in a downward spiral. I mean, Plug today, who knows how low that's going to go. When DraftKings did that, it sent the stock off an absolute cliff and it never really recovered. So, yeah, that would be bad. And that's also why, don't get me wrong, I love Penn. I own a lot of it. But, as far as, the trading goes, I really think Win might be the move for this exact moment in that sector while, it catches up. Because when I look at this chart, it hasn't even gotten past June highs yet, which it made when the world thought the pandemic was starting to go down. And that's what's happening again now. And now, if anything, people are going to be even more confident of that. So, I mean,
let's wrap it up here. It's past 9 o'clock. Stocks of the day, Dan.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that. Yeah, Win and Dave & Buster's and Ford.
Yeah, and I'm sticking with MOS and Ford. MOS is already back over 18.
I've been patiently waiting to add to my Beyond position, and I think today is the day. It's finally at the level where I'm just I'm sick of this. It's ridiculous that it should be on planet Jupiter by now. So let's make some money.
All right, nice.